Hi, my name is Savannah Zippel, and this is my presentation on Alexander's disease in the classroom. So the basis of this presentation is an interview that I did. I interviewed the mother of a sixth grade boy who goes to church with me. The boy actually has a rare form of leukodystrophy known as Alexander's disease. And when I talked to the mother, I wanted her just to share with me about her son's experience in the public school system and some of the special education services he receives. A lot of my conversation was directed at helping future educators understand diversity in the classroom. I asked her some specific questions, such as what can I do as an educator to provide for students similar to her son? How can I include others with disabilities into activities? And how can I handle the student receiving special needs as an individual and not as a category of their disability? So first we need to talk a bit about the family dynamics, the family background. The mother I interviewed is married and she has two sons. Her son with the disability is adopted. She describes her family as the average American family. Her other son is slightly older, and the boys are your usual run-of-the-mill brothers. They share many of the same interests, such as sports and Legos. They also annoy each other like a typical sibling relationship, and her older son is very supportive and helps his brother throughout the day. The entire family is Catholic, and they attend church once a week or more. And her son with Alexander's disease was confirmed several years early because of his terminal diagnosis, which we will talk a little bit later about. And he also received special help from the priest in receiving communion, so just being able to swallow. So we talked a little bit about the church and the family dynamics, and I mentioned a little bit about her son, but let's really dive in. What is Alexander's disease? So during the interview with the mother, I learned a little bit more about her son's condition. So Alexander disease is a type of leukodystrophy. When broken down, leukodystrophy translates to death of the white matter in the brain. It's a neurological disease that is terminal. It causes cognitive delay, and most children don't live past 5 to 7 years old. Most don't walk, talk, or even eat on their own. So here I have a picture of, on the left is the normal brain, and on the right is a brain with leukodystrophy, specifically Alexander's disease, and how it breaks down the white matter in the brain. So let's talk a little bit about her son. First of all, her son is 1 in a million. This disease is very rare, and there's only a few people who are diagnosed with it. And he's actually in sixth grade at the local public school. So not only is this disease rare, but he's also defeated odds so far, and he has excuse me, he has been living for 12 years now, which is past um, the expected date to live. He feeds himself, he walks, and he talks, and he is actually very talkative. I love talking to their son. He's very enjoyable. He absolutely loves school. He's very friendly and outgoing, and he's in an inclusive classroom environment. He spends the majority of his day in the general education classroom, and he has two classes in the special education room. And the two classes in the special education room are reading and math. So this is just a ribbon, leukodystrophies awareness ribbon. Just thought it'd be interesting to include that in there. So disability, this is what her son specifically struggles with. It causes a lot of disability. So first of all, we have to understand that it's not really a box that he fits in. It's a very rare disease. They're not prepping you for this disease when you enter. I mean, specifically for me, it's something I never really heard about when I'm doing my teaching classes. So it's not something you can fit in a box like autism or ADHD. But it does cause speech impairment, specifically in the articulation with her son. A learning disability. The learning disability is only in a few areas. Her son is very smart. And the learning disability is actually, this one's from acquired trauma to the nervous system. And then an intellectual disability, which is caused by prenatal conditions in the womb. He also has mobility issues, such as getting around the classroom, that require special needs for that as well. So we also need to talk a little bit about his older brother to understand some of the family dynamics. Um, his older brother is very supportive of his younger brother, is very supportive of him with his disability. They get along really well. Sometimes things can be a little difficult for him. His brother requires extra medical attention, and sometimes they cannot go to certain events because of mobility issues. But his parents provide special events and trips just to make up for him for that. So going back to the boy with the disability, I talked to the mom a lot about some of the challenges she dealt in the public school. So we have the old school and then the new school that he transferred to. The old school, she dealt with a lot of challenges, such as struggling with several years with just being in the special education room for most of the school day. She was very frustrated because she was accused of being uncooperative, and they actually switched schools. And they've been using the inclusion principle in his new school, and he's very content and happy with it. So his new school, his new teachers are very supportive. They check in with him, they interact with him. There's actually a teacher who didn't like sports and started keeping up with sports just to start conversations with him. He does require special assistance with mobility, and the school specifically bought a wheelchair for him to use in school, nobody else but him. So that was something that was really special, and the family really appreciated. And all of his classrooms are made wheelchair accessible. So we've been learning a lot about the inclusive environment and just how it can affect children with special needs and some of the issues that they go through. So the boy with special needs was introduced to an inclusive environment, and it's been extremely beneficial for him socially. Just his development has improved so much. His self-esteem has risen. He enjoys talking to others, and he's made a lot of new friends. So this is just an example of how beneficial the inclusive environment can be. Social interaction. I asked her. I asked her about his friends. Does he feel like he's limited in friends? But no, he has many friends. All the other students see him as one of them, and a student just actually called to ask him to a dance. So he's very excited to be able to go to that. And then I asked her, with his disability, is he making less or more friends? And she said that actually probably more, because students like holding the door for him. They love pushing him in the wheelchair. They make an effort to get to know him. So social interaction has been very beneficial, and I think with the inclusive environment, that's also helped a lot. Some of the future challenges that he faces in the classroom, though, his stamina does seem to be decreasing, and mobility is also decreasing. And he's gone back to private physical therapy. So these are just some of the things that the family's currently dealing with. There's always going to be a new challenge in their life. They dealt with the schooling issue, and now they're dealing with this. So learning from this whole interview that I did with this mother about her son with a disability and learning about their family dynamics, I wanted to know, what can I do in the classroom as a future teacher? So I wanted to know how to help other students who may be similar to her son, who don't fit in a box. I was told to always advocate for my students. It won't always be easy, and it may go against school culture. The other school that we talked about, they were not inclusive, and it was very frustrating for them. But advocating for your students, it can really make a world of difference for that child. So that's something that they had. They had teachers that advocated for them, and it made a world of difference for their child. I was always also reminded that not every student will fit in a box. So something I talked a little bit about earlier. Her son's disability is not classified under one broad category. And even with students who do have a broad category, it's important not to generalize and to treat them as on an individual basis. So my brother is actually diagnosed with Asperger's, which is a form of autism, but he doesn't have every single characteristics of those who may have Asperger's. So it's important to treat them as an individual, and fit their needs as an so then I asked her, what about agricultural education? As an agricultural educator, we do a lot of hands-on activities. We do a lot of student labs, field trips, and independent work. So what can I do to include others who may have similar disabilities? I was told to watch for transportation issues, such as wheelchair lifts. Make sure all areas are wheelchair accessible. And a big thing that she deals with is making sure there's an appropriate bathroom area nearby. So that's something I also need to keep. So the takeaway from this, students with disabilities are just like any other individual student. You need to accommodate for the specific needs of that child and work with their specific style of learning. You need to work towards their goal and allow them to experience new ideas and concepts. Your learning plans should not always be individualized, or excuse me, your learning plans should always be individualized no matter if there's a disability or not. So this is a quote that I really enjoyed. It is inclusion is not simply about physical proximity, it's about intentionally planning for the success of all students. And so that's just one of the biggest takeaways that I've learned from. Thank you for watching.